Good Tuesday evening, everybody. It's Chief Meteorologist Brad Penovich here for Live Weather Impact. It is now March 3rd, 2026, and we had another cloudy, kind of gray day, but the good news, if you love warm weather, we've got a great stretch of weather heading ahead of us, and it really is going to be kind of wild. It's actually going to feel more like maybe late May as opposed to early March. So tomorrow, your weather impacts, we're going to start. It's going to be a sunny, warmer day. Temperatures in the mid-70s. Late week, really, and I'm talking Thursday beyond, probably near 80 plus every single day through the middle of next week. Not a lot of rain in the forecast, but we do have some isolated rain chances. We actually could use a little bit of rain in this severe to extreme drought that we have now. Now, I want to look back because the last 10 days have been a wild ride. 10 days ago, it was 83 degrees. We had the warmest February temperature all time. We saw a cool down Monday, Tuesday last week, really chilly, low 40s, above, well below average. And then we kind of bounced all over the place in the last 5 or 6 days. It all started with really that Sunday temperature where it was 77 degrees, and even though today and yesterday ended up slightly above average by a degree or two, it actually felt a whole lot colder because it was 77 on Sunday. So that was just a dramatic change. But don't worry, we're going back to the 70s. If you loved them this past weekend, we got more of them on the way. It's a pretty interesting pattern. If this was, let's say, June, July, or August, this would be a scorching heat wave that's going to be heading our way. Upper 50s right now, so pretty mild. We had some late day sun, and by the way, sunset tonight was 6:21. It's getting later and later and later. By the weekend, with the time change, you're talking like 7:30 almost. So pretty dramatic change in daylight coming here for the evening hours. Tonight, we will cool down. It's the upper 40s. You see that 20% chance. That's likely Mr. Drizzle. We could see some patchy fog form tonight. Certainly, if the skies do clear out, we've got enough low-level moisture left over to produce some fog. So temperatures in the mid-40s, which might seem cool, but the average low is like 39, 40 degrees. So this is actually a little bit above average. And this morning, if you're out, it was really chilly. We saw upper 30s to around 40, so it was a cool day. But tomorrow, the patios for lunchtime will be packed. People will be out the parks. Greenways will be packed. Temperatures in the mid-upper 70s. Lots of sunshine. Southwest breezes blowing in. Not only warm air, but a whole bunch of pollen as well. So get ready for that explosion this week. You see the pattern. We jokingly call that southwest flow the blowtorch, but I think you'll all experience it this week. Southwest winds are going to be super warm, super humid at times as well. We're actually going to see maybe our first humid weather with some overnight lows in the upper 50s to near 60. So that's really when you notice things getting warm and you see a lot of growth happen with the plants and vegetation, is when those overnight temperatures start to warm up. Now, when we have a ridge like we're going to have over the southeast, on the western flank, you tend to see a lot of rain, sometimes a stagnant pattern as well on the edges of these ridges. And that's what we're going to see in the middle of the country. Not only 1, 2, 3, 4 days in a row of possible severe storms to the west. So this is really going to lay down a lot of moisture to our west. And that's actually going to show up in some of the longer range patterns. And I'll show you real quickly here in a minute some of those longer range patterns as we look at some really heavy rain in the middle of the country. But I mentioned that southwest wind and the pollen. If you're an allergy sufferer from tree pollen, two of the worst things you're going to want to see is cedar and oak. Oak is really bad. Those two are popping up. We're going from like medium levels early this week to high tomorrow to very high Thursday and Fridays, because you're going to get tree pollen locally, right? You got a lot of trees budding. If you've been out and about, you can actually see kind of all the red buds in the trees, some of the flowering trees, the Bradford pears, the cherry, the apple trees are all starting to get those buds and flowers. But we're also blowing in all the pollen from areas to our southwest where the trees have been going a little bit earlier. So this is the pattern the next 7 days. High pressure off the southeast coast, southwest winds, cranking in that warm, humid air. So that's all the record warmth. But in the middle of the country, that's where you have all the storms. Repeated days of strong, possibly some severe storms there, and that's reflected in our rainfall forecast. We'd love to get some of that rain over us, maybe not all at once, but that would be a huge help for the drought. You see some of these totals, 3, 4, 5 inches of rain from North Texas all the way up into the Ohio Valley, because that's repeated days of waves of storms, because every day that we see the sun come up, the dry line's going to come out of the plains, it's going to produce a whole bunch of showers and storms. But for us, not much rain. We're bone dry now, and with the warm air this week, evaporation rates go up. We see the plant life coming back. It's all going to start pulling moisture out of the soil. So if you haven't noticed the drought because it's been wintertime, you're going to notice this week, because all that moisture that was sitting on the top of the soil is going to get used up. Also, don't forget, we lose an hour of sleep. That's the bad news. The good news, we start shifting daylight to the evening. Remember, we're not adding daylight. We're only adding about 2 hours a day because of the tilt of the Earth already and our orbit around the sun. This is really shifting when the light happens by changing the clocks from the morning to the evening. So sunrise is at 7:43 a.m. as opposed to 6:43, and now the new sunset is going to be 7:25 instead of 6:25. So we're shifting it to the evenings. You'll really notice that Sunday night. Now, jet stream pattern, this is what I talked about. If we had this pattern in June or July, we'd be talking about sweltering heat, low to mid 90s, maybe even upper 90s, tons of humidity. That doesn't last long. Next week, there are signs of changes as we see a shift in the jet stream. But this weekend, it's going to feel like spring. 80, that's our average high by mid to late May, not early March. Such a wild ride. Our Jerry Hunt Supercenter 7-day shows a stretch of weather that you normally would see later in the spring, not early. A Charlotte FC home game, the first one of the season, normally cold. This one's going to be warm, and not a lot of rain either. I'll show you the 10-day forecast just to show you when things could come to an end. And it looks like next Thursday is when the first front gets in here and knocks the pattern back the other direction. So we go from possibly a few record highs near 80, low 80s to 60s and eventually 50s, and hopefully some much needed rainfall by then, because we'll get the drought monitor on this Thursday. Probably not a great setup. Next week we'll have another one, probably not as good, with maybe another chance of rain. Stick around. Coming up, we're going to talk Creek Week with Stormwater Services, and we got to talk about Severe Weather Awareness Week as well. Coming up with Tim Buckley. Stick around in 2 minutes. Welcome back, everybody. Tim Buckley joins me as always from WFMY up in Greensboro. Tim, kind of another gloomy day down our way, but everyone's getting super excited for this taste of spring coming up the next couple of days. Looks like a pretty nice pattern that we're going to see going into the rest of the week. Not a lot of rain either, which is kind of odd. Typically this time of year we're getting into the storm season, but this looks like a dry heat wave if there is such a thing this time of year.
Usually in the winter months and even into March, a lot of times when you warm up, you do bring the moisture with it. We just haven't really been doing that much this winter, which means it's more enjoyable to get outside and kind of, spread your wings and do some spring activities. Those things are going to be easy to do. But like you said, Brad, there shouldn't be a lot of rain going along with this warm up. But I'll tell you, I think people are ready for it. We have had a fair amount of clouds over the last several days, not just these last couple, but we had several last week as well. In my mind, we kind of have like a 2-day tolerance for cloudy weather in North Carolina. And we did that again the last 2 days. So hoping that fog doesn't set up all that much tomorrow morning and we can just have a nice one.
Yeah, we've got a guest coming up here in studio in a second, but we'll talk a little bit just quickly about, this pattern and then the time change this weekend. It's kind of all coinciding together. We've got Severe Weather Awareness Week, we've got the time change, and we've got a heat wave all at the same time, Tim. We're looking at maybe a couple records down our way. Do you think you're going to set some records this week or into the weekend up your way?
I think we will. We're definitely going to set one on Friday. Our record high
Yeah.
on Friday is 78, so that should be a cakewalk. Apart from that, most of them are in the low 80s, so we'll see. The thing that's impressive is, like you said, Brad, this is a long-lasting warm-up, and so it's basically Wednesday to Wednesday that you'll have the opportunity to set some of those records or tie some of them. And so I think that this is going to be one that we remember for a while for how warm it is, but also how long it's lasting. And it's going to change the way it looks outside. I mean, all of those trees are going to start popping. The grass is going to green up. It will not look like it does now until next winter, once you get after this warm-up.
That is so true. A week like a stretch of this with 80s for highs or close to it, morning lows in the 50s and 60s, it really is going to green things. I even noticed today, I'm starting to see a lot of the cool season grass, and you're noticing the trees beginning to bud quite a bit. But I mentioned, that this is a severe weather awareness week, but here in Charlotte, it's also Creek Week. And we have a special guest in studio today. I want to welcome in Taylor from Charlotte Mecklenburg Stormwater Services. They do a great job. First of all, Taylor, tell us what Creek Week is all about and what folks should know about creeks here in Mecklenburg County.
I would love to. So, Creek Week is our annual celebration of our waterways around Mecklenburg County. And we celebrate that through volunteerism, education, and environmental stewardship. So us and a number of partners, including the library, the nature preserves, Carolina Thread Trail. We try to partner with as many people as we can so that we can host an event every day of the week. So Creek Week takes place the last week of March, which is March 21st to the 28th, and we have something for everyone. We're kicking it off with our first ever stormwater runoff 5K at Lauder Nature Preserve.
Like
that'll be on the 21st. We have learn to fish events for all age groups and all expertise levels. We have things for the littles. We've got story time where we'll bring our mascot Stormy off. And then we end the week with our big spring clean. So we've got 8 cleanup sites, stream cleanup sites around the county. There's bound to be one near you, and we get people in some waders, get them in the creek, and try to remove as much litter as possible.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting. We were talking before the show started about, Mecklenburg County's got a lot of creeks. I mean, there's a lot of waterways here. It's pretty stunning. I think people would be shocked how many miles there are. If folks go to the greenways, you probably know some of these creeks based on the greenways. But talk a little bit about the number of creeks and how they're really important to not only our ecosystem, but also stormwater, because they really remove a lot of the water runoff that we have in Mecklenburg County.
Yes, our creeks are so important. One, for our safety. They help move that water off of our streets and move them towards the Catawba River. They're important for wildlife. In Mecklenburg County, we have a little over 3,000 miles of stream and lake shoreline, so that's a lot of water moving through the system at all times. We see our creeks by our greenways, but we also have pipe tributaries running through uptown. We have really small creeks that you might not think is a creek running beside your home. So I always tell people you're not that far, and it's important to be aware of where they are because you can have an effect on them.
Yeah, and I think that's the big thing I like to tell people is, those storm drains, which everyone are familiar with outside your house, in your street, those all go to the creeks.
Yep.
And so when people are dumping stuff in their driveway or their yard or out in the street, they got to think about that. That's eventually going to end up in our creeks, right?
Absolutely. It's a common misconception that people think something magical happens when they go into those storm drains.
It goes to like some cleaning area first before it goes there?
Nope, they go straight to the outfall to our nearest waterway, unfiltered, and so everything it picks up with it that goes into those storm drains ends up in our creeks.
Hey, Taylor, Tim Buckley here in Greensboro. This is good stuff that you're doing, and across North Carolina, we love our waterways. What are some of the biggest no-nos or the biggest things that you see people doing when you're doing these cleanup efforts? What are the things you're finding the most of, and what are the things you want to discourage people from doing the most at home on a daily basis?
Lots of no-nos. We find the most interesting things in the streams. We find plastic and different types of plastic. So we've got plastic bottles and plastic bags, which are sometimes the hardest to remove from the streams because they get caught up in everything. So I would love to encourage reusable water bottles and reusable bags when you go shopping, and always remember you're never that far from a trash can. Put your trash in a trash can, drive it to the place, and then put it in the trash can.
Yeah, you mentioned, the cleanups, which I think are great. I've seen them, and it is really cool because you can wade in there and like really make a difference by cleaning up some of these creeks. I think people are familiar with like adopting roadways to clean up litter. It's kind of similar, right? But we're doing it on a creek.
That's right. We have Adopt a Stream.
Yeah, which is great. But talk a little bit about what folks can do at their house, because I'm a big proponent of this, and we often say this, Tim, I don't know if you do this on the air, but when we know that we're going to get heavy rain, I'll tell people, hey, go clean around your storm drains.
That's
clean
right.
out are there other things people can do around their storm drains that would help you guys, but also help prevent flooding?
Yes, absolutely. So anytime before a rain event, clearing your storm drain, just the top of the grate, just getting all the debris and leaves and potentially trash off of there, bagging it and either having it collected if it's yard waste or putting it in your trash can really helps keeping that debris from going into the storm drain and possibly blocking drainage, which can cause localized flooding. You can also secure your trash cans if we're going into a hurricane or a super windy season, so your trash can doesn't end up getting flipped over and all your trash gets blown around. That all those small things really do have a big impact.
Hey, Taylor, one of the things Brad and I have been talking about, and really meteorologists across the state over the last several months now, is that we're not getting enough rain, and we have been getting ourselves into trouble when it comes to a drought. Have you guys with stormwater been seeing any impacts from that in the creek system, in the stream system, and if so, what are you noticing?
That's a good question. I mean, the drought does affect the ecology of a stream. And so when we see low creek levels, we see impacts to wildlife habitat. We might see that it's harder for water to move through the system in our smaller waterways because there's not enough water to move it through. So all those things can have effects on the water quality.
Yeah, and on that same kind of topic, what kind of wildlife do you normally see in some of our creeks? I've seen some amazing things, but we're in this urban setting, and like when you go down one of these creek beds, it's almost like going out in the country. You almost see things you don't normally. What are some of the type of wildlife that people in the city might be shocked that are living in some of our creeks?
Oh my gosh, I've seen so many blue herons. They're always a beautiful and majestic thing to see when you happen upon a creek. We have lots of turtles here. That's why our mascot is Stormy the Turtle. So many turtles, huge turtles, big snapping turtles you can find just in Little Sugar Creek. All kinds of fish. We've got bass, we've got catfish. I mean, it's really a thriving environment. There are so many things from really small macroinvertebrate critters to the large blue heron.
One more thing I just kind of came to mind is we're here in what we call Severe Weather Awareness Week right now, and we're talking about tornadoes and severe thunderstorms. One of the things we talk about is flash flooding. And when I think about urban creeks in North Carolina, whether it's Charlotte, Greensboro, Raleigh, wherever, that can often be a site of flash flooding. Is that something you guys see every year? And do you have any safety tips for people that, if you just get caught in a summer storm out there, what should they be watching for if there's any warning signs of that?
Absolutely. We get lots of flash flooding around here. Like I said, we have a lot of water around Mecklenburg County. Major safety thing we have here is turn around, don't drown. You can be swept away in just a foot of water. So if you are driving and you come across a flooded overpass, just turn around. Don't try to cross it. And then there are lots of things to stay prepared in your home. But the main thing for safety is just being aware, looking at your notifications, checking out the fin system to see where our water levels are, and making sure you are prepared.
Yeah, and the fin system, for people that aren't familiar with that, it is a great system. They've got gauges, cameras, and for us, which is really cool, Tim, and you may have looked at this down our way, we've got this network of rain gauges all across Mecklenburg County. And every time I tell people, hey, we always show the airport rainfall. If you want to see a rainfall total closer to your house, go to the fins page, right, Taylor?
Yeah,
you can find some. They're mostly at schools and churches, and just about every neighborhood in Charlotte has a rain gauge pretty close by. How many gauges do you guys have now? Do you know?
Oh, no, that's a hard question.
I was trying to think too. I'm like, it's a lot. It's a really
I feel
diverse.
like it's over 30.
Yeah.
But I don't know the exact number.
It's funny. I have 2 weather stations in my house. Obviously, I'm a big weather geek, but I live close to South Meck High School. I always check the fin gauge there to kind of compare, because it's literally across the street from my house. So if I feel like my gauge is off, I can go check and compare, and it's pretty close. But that's a great resource if you're curious about water levels. You want to see the levels of the creeks or see rain gauge data. It's really, really useful, Tim. We're almost out of time, Tim. You got any more questions for Taylor?
I think that about covers it, but it's amazing to me just how many creeks there are in our cities, especially in Charlotte. And I love how we keep this green space. Whenever we have cities in North Carolina, you're never too far away from green spaces. I think that's just something that we should all work to preserve as best that we can.
Yeah, and I was commenting, Taylor, about how great Charlotte is about preserving these greenways. The greenways serve a great purpose for us, Taylor, right? They're great recreation areas, but they're supposed to flood. That's like where we want the water to go, so it doesn't go into businesses. And you guys have done a great job of doing buybacks, taking homes that are in the floodplain. And I think people get worried when they see the greenways flood, but oftentimes I know I've talked to you guys before. It's like, no, that's what's supposed to happen.
Absolutely.
That's where we want the water to go.
That's how they were designed. Yeah. So it's not in the stores and in the homes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it might mess up the running trail or the bike path, but that's what we want. And just be careful because it's pretty muddy sometimes after the water does go down. And I've seen some epic flash floods on the Greenway, and I'm like, that is so cool. I'm glad it's not at my house. But Taylor, thank you so much. You guys do a great job at Stormwater Services, and they really do. It's an amazing organization, and for the city and county, they do a great job for us down here, and really does help mitigate a lot of the flooding we see. Tim, you're right. We're in Severe Weather Awareness Week, and it's I feel like every year when we have this, Tim, we usually have the risk of severe weather. I don't want to jinx us, but it's been pretty quiet considering it's been a La Nina winter. Typically, we get some late activity. I'm waiting for that flip of the switch because we're going to see it in the middle of the country. But eventually, we're going to see that happen, Tim. And this is a good week, I think, for people to kind of get prepared. Have you guys been talking about some of the ways for people to get prepared as we go into severe weather season this week?
Yeah, for sure. And every year just kind of hitting the main points. Do you have ways to get the alerts, right? Do you have the NOAA weather radios? Are your alerts turned on your phones? Are your phones charged up and close by to where you're sleeping? Do you have the station apps? And you can watch us when you're hiding in the closet. All of these things are really good to keep in mind. But whether it's hail or tornadoes or severe thunderstorms or flash flooding, we get all of those, and especially in the spring season.
Yeah, and this is why we do this week. It's good to prepare now. And Chris Mulcahy, our meteorologist here at WCNC, is going to cover the topic of hail today. We've seen some massive hailstorms lately here in the Carolinas, and you would be surprised the amount of damage that hail can cause. Chris will explain, and there's math. I warn you, just a little bit of math involved in this one.
Every year we do something like this, saying that this is how hail forms, going up and down above the freezing level. But this year we're going to do something different. This year, we're doing some hail math, where I'm going to show you why a hailstone this size, about the size of an egg, is actually 20 times more destructive than the size of a quarter. When we reference hail, we're comparing it to everyday objects. Most of the hail that we see here is pea size, or a quarter of an inch. Hail that's 3/4 of an inch is penny size, 1.75 inches is golf ball size, and 2.75 inches is baseball size. Where over the past 10 years, the Carolinas have had over 2,400 hailstorms report over penny-size hail. For our hail math, we're going to compare a hailstone that's 1 inch in diameter to one that's about 2 inches in diameter. Let's crack the numbers. This may look scary, but hear me out. This is the formula for volume. This R cubed is what we're going to focus on, mainly just the 3. This shows that if we double the size of a hailstone, it contains 8 times more ice. So for simple math, 1 times 1 times 1 equals 1. But 2 times 2 times 2 equals 8. So the heavier something is, the more force it causes. Even a small increase in hail size can significantly increase the destructive power. A hailstone that's the size of a quarter is considered severe. That would trigger a severe thunderstorm warning. That hailstone will fall to the ground at roughly 45 to 50 miles per hour. The 2-inch hailstone is 20 times more destructive and it falls at 65 to 70 miles per hour. Larger hail is most common from April to June in the Carolinas, with May being the peak month. The largest hailstone to ever fall in the Carolinas was 4.5 inches wide. That's about the size of a CD. That's happened 13 times, 8 in North Carolina, 5 in South Carolina. A hailstone that large will fall to the ground at about 100 miles per hour, and it has 400 times more destructive power than the one that triggers a severe thunderstorm warning. I'm meteorologist Chris Mulcahy with WCNC Charlotte.
Yeah, Tim, hail is one of those things, we don't often see big hail, but when we do, boy, does that cause damage. And as a homeowner and a vehicle owner, that's the worst sound is the sound of hail hitting either of those things.
It is, and last year proved it. We had our worst hailstorm since I've lived here in Greensboro. 2-inch hail, pretty widespread around the city. There are still people fixing roofs, fixing cars, all those things. We're not used to it, but when it happens, it can be a big, big problem for sure.
Yeah, thanks everybody for joining us tonight. We'll continue with Severe Weather Awareness Week. Tomorrow is actually the tornado drill for the state of North Carolina tomorrow. Stay tuned. We've got more election coverage coming up on The Plus next.